Here's Shed. Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it. Jamal Shed plays the hero again.
Back to pass. Donovan Smith. Smith steps up in the pocket, unloads it, throws it all the way downfield into the end zone. Tipped, and it is caught. Caught by the Cougars. Caught for a touchdown. Unbelievable. Caught by Stephon Johnson.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Holm Podcast, back here in the beginnings of the basketball offseason. And I think it tells you something about how much our Cougar fandom, all of us, not just the two of us that host this show about Houston Cougar athletics, our fandom has been recalibrated. You know, before it's like, okay, like the football. And not that we haven't always been, even in our pre-podcasting days, Bobby, the kinds of fans that, you know, like, not to pat ourselves in the back too much, but we were aware of sports outside of the two biggest ones. Although, honestly, until about 8-9 years ago, it's just the one biggest one. Because football kind of occupied the same space as the other like sports that you would think of traditionally as not getting a ton of the overall casual fan attention. It tells you how much has been recalibrated, Bobby, that we are leading this episode tonight with basketball offseason stuff, and I'm leading it talking about the basketball offseason, even though we have a full slate of Cougar sports stuff to talk about. You and I, which I think we're both very excited to talk about with our respective events. You and I were both physically out at Cougar sporting events the past week. I know we both found that experience to be immensely enjoyable. That's going to come up tonight. We got a couple programs looking ahead to their respective Big 12 championships too. We're going to talk about that here tonight. A bat and ball sport, I believe the only one that U of H fields as well. That's going to have to come up before we're done recording. Bobby, I've talked to you long enough at the top. How are you doing? Also, the first episode, not that it probably hasn't been flashes of this in DFW, but I feel like the first episode where we're both now like in the hot part of the year. So I gotta hit that little weather chat in there. How you doing, bud? Sorry.
I'm good, man. You know, it's actually been really nice here, but I like it to be like in the 80s over like the 60s. So, yes, I am a psychopath. That's fine. So it hasn't been too hot. It's actually been pretty nice. Got to go out, play some golf on Friday. Actually had a work meeting kind of get canceled last minute. And I was like, well, looks like my afternoon just freed up a little bit. So, but overall, things are going pretty well here in Irving, Texas. So, having a good time. So,
and I was gonna say, gotta mention here at the top, usual our housekeeping here, because this kind of keeps the lights on for us. Patreon.com/SH podcast. Patreon is the place to support the work that Bobby and I do on a weekly basis. Obviously, fully voluntary. We're gonna keep doing these shows on a weekly basis, but if you want bonus episodes, if you want to just support the work that we do as two guys with full-time jobs who've been doing this podcast for a good long while now, patreon.com/SH podcast. Little as $5 a month. That's 60 cents a day, give or take. You'll be supporting the work ish. It's my U of H math there. Supporting the work that Bobby and I do on a weekly basis. Patreon.com/SH podcast. And you know this is coming, Bobby. Got an old friend returning to the show here. Our good friends, Vintage Made Fresh, Charlie Hustle, they're back here with us. New promo code, I'm going to mention in a second, but I'm not going to say a whole lot new here because like it's easy for me, and Bobby knows I'm being 100% truthful here. Backing up, Bobby, I tell you, I don't script these ad reads. Like, no, I make sure certain things are mentioned. Like, you be a good partner. Like, you got to mention certain things. CharlieHustle.com. That's where you're going to find Charlie Hustle's incredible wearables, including a great Cougar collection. I am wearing, Bobby can see the top of it here in this video feed that we're not releasing to the public, but Bobby can attest. I'm wearing the Eat 'em Up Cougs shirt with the state of Texas and the old school Shasta Sailor Cougar mascot. It's a great shirt. One of several one of several great Charlie Hustle wearables that I have. It's no longer, I think, the season, although we got a cool day coming Friday, Bobby, and I'm excited about that because I know I'm going to wear, and you have the same one. You and I are both huge fans of this piece of apparel. The Charlie, you know where I'm going, the Charlie Hustle crew neck. Sir. Just says, it's just very simple, just says Cougs on it. It's one of my favorites when I'm exercising here. It's one of my favorites on like a casual Friday when it's a little cool outside, which I got mercifully one more day of. Any of that sounds good to you? Fantastic collection. I think pretty much the entire rest of the Big 12 over there as well. So not just a Houston place over there. And that promo code I mentioned ago, we got a new promo code for you. If you used our old one, you can use this new one. And you're going to save some money on your Charlie Hustle wearables. Network 12, for our friends of the 1012 Network, who we are part of this partnership with, Network 12, that's going to save you on some fantastic Charlie Hustle wearables. Go to charliehustle.com, vintage made fresh, great Cougar tees, lots of school tees, and support our friends there who have supported the work that Bobby and I do here for a not insignificant amount of time. So that's all the housekeeping, Bobby. Gotta lead with Cougar basketball. Cougar men's basketball, be more specific, just because the season only ended very recently, 8 days ago as of recording, though we're trying to think exactly about what happened 8 days ago. Though I want to reiterate that I'm very proud of the work that you and I did, Bobby, on 1038. Our last episode of the show here. If you have not listened to it, if you're just like, I don't think I want to like relive that, I'm proud of what Bobby and I did because I was with you, Cougar fans. I did not. I went into the episode just being like, oh, I'm not dying to talk about that game, and I actually really enjoyed talking about it with you, Bobby. And I think I'm very proud of the work that you and I did. Talking about a great season, talking about a difficult end to that great season, but talking about what frustrated us, talking about what we're grateful about. Would encourage you to give that a listen if you've not done so already. But just because we are only about a weekend a day removed from the season doesn't mean Kelvin Sampson and his staff have not been busy working to build the coming season's roster. We have 2 player additions to the Cougs to discuss, one of which actually happened during the NCAA tournament. And obviously, we had a few more things with a higher priority to talk about during that tournament, and a departure of a guy who played a lot from this most recent completed season. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do this choose your own adventure style, Bobby, here. You want to start with the additions or the departure? I'm fine with either.
Let's start with the additions.
Perfect. So, like I said at the top, 2 Cougars to talk about, and we'll go in the order of most to least recent out of those 2 guys that we have not addressed specifically yet in the show. Combo guard Pop Isaacs, who comes in from Creighton, and power forward Kalifa Sakho from Sam Houston State. So we'll start with Isaacs. He committed the literal day after the national title game, April 8th, naturally within hours of us recording our most recent previous episode that we've done talking about, but I think we're used to news breaking immediately after we record around these parts. Even without knowing the full list of comings and goings yet from the team, I'm comfortable going on a limb here and saying that U of H is not going to bring in a more impactful player for next season from the portal than they are with Isaacs. Not overall, because you've got some really highly touted freshmen coming in here, so I'm not going to say it for every incoming player at large, but feel confident saying you're not going to get a more impactful portal guy in this team than Isaacs. Bobby, what have you learned that you could tell us about the newest Cougar guard?
Yeah, I'll kind of lay down just some background. Comes in from Creighton, didn't play any but 8 games this year, had hip surgery, which I believe was his second hip surgery. Sam, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I feel like I saw
could be
it
right.
was his second. Played 2 years at Texas Tech, if you're wondering why that name sounds familiar. We'll need to see how he recovers from his hip injury. But this very much feels like a high upside, high ceiling, but also high floor. Kind of worst case scenario here. If you get the Pop Isaacs that we have seen before, who is just an absolute shooter from anywhere, you have a 2 guard who's going to come in and make a massive difference on this team. If he didn't recover well from his hip, you have a guy who's going to come off the bench and be one of the best 6th men in the country, in addition to all the other recruits that you have coming in. So kind of weird when I saw it happen. I was kind of like, oh, wait a minute. What? It seems a little odd, right? And you kind of try to fit everything together, but if he bounces back 100%, you got a great option here. Would be remiss if we didn't mention some of the off the court problems that he did run into. He was accused of sexual misconduct with a 17-year-old at the Bahamas tournament. It led to a civil suit that was dropped by the plaintiff's family. Really seems like there was a booster involved with it who was providing alcohol for both Pop, for Isaacs and the 17-year-old there. No excuses, obviously not thrilled that he did it, but it does seem that it was probably brought, just from what I read on message boards, which is not a great place to read things from, but then you read more and more news articles and things like that. It really seems like a pissed off dad who was really upset by this. Obviously, like I said, not thrilled that we necessarily that it has happened in all of that, but an issue that seems to be behind Pop, and he has since played at Creighton and moved on from it. It seems everyone has kind of moved on from that. So on the basketball side, kind of hard not to be excited about what you see from Pops, especially if he comes back even close to 100% there.
Yeah, I think you covered most of the pertinent details. Criminal charges were never filed in this case, and Texas Tech's Office of Title IX found Isaac's, quote, not responsible, unquote, when they investigated the incident. At no point during the season where this occurred, the 23-24 season, was Isaac suspended from team activities. I'll get to the basketball after this, and I want to say this is my opinion, which is just my opinion. Don't know if it does or doesn't necessarily align 100% with my co-host here, though I think we don't differ too much on this. It doesn't have to align with you, the person listening to this' opinion. I have a problem with any kind of line of logic if you're someone who's not thrilled about this addition. If you were someone accused of something, I don't agree that that's it. You're marked with that. You might as well have been convicted of it and did it. I think that's a terrible and kind of horrifying standard, because there's nothing there stopping anybody from making any accusation and that tarnishing the person who's accused of that accusation permanently. And my standard isn't even as high as, well, any athlete in question has to be convicted of a crime for me not to want them as part of the program. I want to use a recent different school example, and I think you know really, really well, Bobby. Sedona Prince, post player for TCU's women's basketball team, has been in the news for basketball reasons, for being a prominent player on an elite team, but also for a number of different physical, emotional, and even abuse allegations, and even some sexual assault allegations made against her by former partners. Prince has not been convicted or charged with a crime in any of these instances, but I'm sorry, I don't think that this consistent pattern of behavior that's described in detail by so many different people, I don't think that's being invented out of whole cloth. So hypothetically, if Prince had eligibility and U of H was a potential transfer target, I would not want Prince as part of the women's basketball program here, full stop. That's clearly a pattern of behavior from somebody I wouldn't want to be a student athlete. This case, in my opinion, it's one alleged incident, which, by the way, to this day, Isaacs denies any involvement in this. And no criminal, civil, or university authority found that Isaacs did any wrong here. So, me personally, no reservations about him competing for the University of Houston, because I just refuse to simply say, well, this person's been accused of something and that's that. If you listen to us long enough, you know we're not afraid of being critical of U of H, but I'm not going to do that as my default either.
Yeah.
So let's get to the actual basketball with this guy. You covered a lot of the salient points here. Some Milos Uzan connection here, even though we don't know with 100% certainty, we'll get to that here in a little bit, that he'll be back for the coming season. Because, if he gets a good first-round grade from all the pre-draft stuff he's going to do, hard for him to say no to that, not to get ahead on that topic. But definitely a connection with Pop Isaacs here. Both Uzan and Isaacs are from the Las Vegas Valley. They never played at the same high school here, but they're both from the east side of town. They also both played at prep schools in different parts of their high school careers, were national top 100 recruits. Two of the better players in recent memory to come out of the Vegas Valley. Like you said, Isaacs didn't play much last year, only played 8 games, but averaged a career high 16.3 points. I went and looked at his game by game, Bobby. His final game that he's played to date as a Division I player, 27 points on 6 of 9 from deep against Kansas in a win. Not bad.
Yep. No, that'll work.
And like you said, played his first 2 seasons at Texas Tech. Started 68 of the 69 games he played. Their average double digits in both season at Texas Tech and in their last one led them in scoring by a wide margin, averaged just under 16 per game. In those 2 seasons at Tech, I wouldn't call Isaacs an efficient scorer, but something that really stood out to me was very good at drawing fouls and making free throws, which, just hasn't really been a strength of Cougar guards as much as we've had some really good ones. Hasn't really been something we've had a guy who could do really well since Giroux?
Yeah.
And even Giroux, it took him, I think, until later in his career to get really proficient at the free throw line, to actually turn that ability to get to the basket into something. Isaacs has that. And in that 8-game season sample size we have from the most recent one at Creighton, he looked like he was trending towards being more efficient. Like Texas Tech, you could tell they needed him to take a lot of shots, and he scored the ball, but wasn't very efficient getting there because, again, they're asking to take a lot of shots. And Grant McCaslin's first season there can also be a good secondary ball handler. You go to 247 Sports, he's listed as a point guard, but I think the description I gave of him earlier as combo guard fits him better. And if Uzan does come back, I think having those two guys as potential creators and ball handlers in the court at the same time makes the Cougars a really good offensive team, gives the Cougars a lot of options. And I think like Uzan coming in here last year, Isaacs will benefit from not being in a situation like his sophomore year at Tech where so much of the offense hinged on him and hinged on him taking lots of shots. I think he'll be surrounded by more capable scorers when he's on the court at U of H, even if Uzan isn't back.
Yeah, I think, Pop seems to do a little bit better with the ball not in his hand as a primary ball handler. But I think with the recruiting class, and if Uzan does come back, which, again, we'll discuss here in a minute, I do think that that is going to be a great opportunity for old Isaacs there.
And I mentioned the other player who committed to the Cougars during the tournament, Sam Houston State big man, Kalifa Sakho, comes in, listed 6'11", 230, started all 29 games that he played in the most recent season for the Cats with a K, averaged just under 8 points and 6.3 boards per game. Wasn't a high volume scorer, kind of polar opposite of Pop Isaac's sophomore year at Tech, but was ruthlessly efficient when he did get the ball, made over 65% of his shots. But what caught my eye the most was Sakho was top 100 nationally in block percentage, averaged over 1.5 per game, top 150 nationally in offensive rebounding percentage. That's what the staff really covets to have big men. And this guy, even on a not great Conference USA team, did very well at it. And it goes without saying there's going to be a big step up from Conference USA to the American, but, and this kind of surprised me, but I vaguely remember this. Did you know this most recent season, Bobby, KenPom has CUSA like 2 spots ahead of the American?
Yes, I did. I actually did know that when I was looking at tournament stuff. Yeah, the American was not good in basketball this year.
And even like, God forbid I give any praise to Memphis. Even with Memphis having like an at-large team, like that league was so bad outside of them.
Yeah.
11th. Oh, God. Can't have gotten out of there quick enough. But anyway, wasn't like he was playing in the SWAC or the Patriot League. Here's my broader point. Sakho also played previously for Utah State in 23-24. Played less there, averaged just over 10 minutes per game on a team that went to the second round of the tournament. Their coach actually ended up getting hired by Washington after the season. Scored 6 points in their opening round win over TCU. Originally from France, played at South Plains in the Texas Panhandle. Bobby, what do you think about the Cougars' newest big man?
Yeah, like you said, 6'11" center from France, comes over from Sam Houston State. Really kind of hard to find a lot of like video of him playing. That's not a highlight video showing you how great he is. But I will be the first to admit I didn't go back through the ESPN Plus catalog and find every Sam Houston State game from this past season. What I did see of him, he seems very athletic, seems to be able to find holes in the defense. It seemed like he was open quite a bit. Really good off of the pick and roll, which I think is going to go really well with some of our recruits coming in, some of our guard play. Him and Pop Isaacs going on a pick and roll really is kind of exciting there. Very athletic for a guy his size. I don't know if you saw any video, Sam, but he was able to move his feet and make some plays on the offensive side. Gonna be interesting to see what happens when he gets a Allen Bishop year of weight training and in that sense. Also, good on defense, it appears. There were games where he maybe disappeared, where you saw him play like 30 minutes and score 4 points maybe. But that's kind of to be expected. Gonna be interesting. The kind of interesting thing to me is, what did coach see in him that he liked? I saw the athleticism. I saw how he does on the pick and roll. But it's kind of a player that's outside of what we've seen from Samson before, a true big man who's 6'11", who can get in there and really and kind of bang around with some people.
It's funny. The last guy that the staff brought in, older big man, like over 6'9". You remember who that was?
No.
Josh Carlton.
Oh yeah, that's right.
From you, which I'm
I
not
always
saying.
forget he was a transfer.
I was gonna say, not saying that Sakho's gonna be Josh Carlton, but remember, like, and Carlton came from UConn, so wasn't coming from a smaller college. It was coming from a UConn team that had played in the America. I think maybe, I'm trying to remember. I think yeah, his first year there, I believe, or his last year there was, I believe, UConn's first Big East season there, and they took a 5th year with us in 21-22. Not saying he's gonna be Josh Carlton, but remember, Josh Carlton mostly wasn't very good at UConn his first 4 years. Like wasn't a guy who, when he came in here, it was like, oh yeah, he's gonna be our nailed on starting big man, first team all conference, and like a cornerstone piece of a team that really needed veteran guys to step up when you lost Sasser and Mark early in that season. So
Yeah.
and college guys, remember, like, you could, when you're 22, 23, like, there could be a big development jump from age 22 to age 23.
Yeah, I think if, not that that's going to be the standard in what we expect, but if you get that kind of production, it's going to be a pretty good season for the Cougs.
Yeah, he's coming here to be a backup big man because, quite frankly, it's a big question mark who you have there in any of the post positions outside of JoJo Tugler and incoming 5-star freshman Chris Sinek Jr. Don't have huge expectations for Sakho at this level offensively, but clearly the staff has seen the rebounding, the shot blocking, the defense. I think it could translate to at least being a bench guy, and that excites me, even if I don't think his role will be anything more than playing maybe 11, 12 minutes a game. He gives you a bit more certainty for big men coming off the bench, and who knows, man, maybe he pushes Said Lot, and Said Lot ends up like really taking his game to the next level, and we see Sakho less as a result of it. I think either way, you're getting a serviceable big man and shot blocker, or he pushes Said Lot to become the guy that the staff thinks he's going to be.
Yep, absolutely.
I got to mention also, alluded to a second ago, I don't have a ton to add on this, but it's noteworthy with Cougar men's basketball. We had this week the news of Milos Uzan. I would say this is almost borderline that's even news. I think you and I would have been floored if this didn't happen. Has declared for the NBA draft, but has not hired an agent, has the option to return to school. Pretty standard. Like, Milos Uzan had a good enough season that I would say it would be almost malpractice for him not to work out for NBA teams, to not at least see, okay, like, if I'm not actually a first round guy, if they're like, yeah, you're mid second round, here's where you can improve. That's really valuable feedback if you're somebody who probably has a future in and around the NBA like Milos Uzan does.
Yeah, I think you have to at least get out there and put your name out there and go get evaluated. Do I think Milos Uzan's suddenly going to jump into the lottery and leave? I don't think he's gone, but I think he absolutely should go at least see what people are thinking. Again, we don't know the financial situation of him or his family or anything like that, so maybe mid-second round draft pick money is exactly what his family needs, and he's going to leave, and I hope he does if that's what he decides is best for him. I personally don't believe he's going anywhere, but it's definitely something you have to explore. One thing that I did find interesting is a lot of times when you see this, you'll hear they entered the draft, but also the portal. Milos did not enter the portal as well. So if anything, he's probably coming back to be a Houston Cougar.
Yeah, either he got a good enough draft grade to, start the next chapter of his life, play pro basketball, or he's going to be a Houston Cougar next year.
Yep.
And if he gets a first round, I mean, selfishly, we would all like one more year of Milos Uzan playing basketball here. I don't think you, me, anyone listening would differ on that one. But if Milos Uzan ends up being any kind of first round pick, to have gone from being last season in Oklahoma, bottom quarter, bottom third of the SEC point guard, like, not somebody really on anyone's radar, to starter on the national runner up. Like, that's like, you don't need too many recruiting advertisements for Houston Cougar men's basketball. Like, this program has now put a number of guys in the league, has put a number of guys in professional basketball, but that's a hell of a development story, man.
Yep.
It'll be a hell of a development story regardless, but like, it's so good for this program that transfer, like, well, man, U of H might not be offering me the same NIL package as School X, but School X went like 8-10 in their league last year, and 3 of their 4 transfers just bombed last season. I'm going to play Houston because I've seen the number of different guys who just maxed out their ability in college and created a nice pro career for themselves by playing for Kelvin Sampson here. So that's cool. But I think we all agree. We all like one more year of Milos Uzan if possible. And last but not least, while we're on the subject of Cougar men's basketball, got some big news last Thursday morning. Mentioned at the top, there's going to be a departure we're going to talk about. Probably know if you're listening, but got to talk about it. Terrance Arceneaux announced last Thursday morning that he would be entering the transfer portal, leaving the Houston program after 3 seasons playing with the Cougars. I was actually, when this came out, the news, I was on the road to Utah to watch Cougar tennis when I saw you and co-host Emeritus Dustin texting about it on Thursday morning. Arceneaux posted a nice message on social media. He thanked the Cougar fans, the coaching staff. He said, not quoting exactly, but he said he wasn't leaving with any bitterness. And from what I could tell, I think an amicable parting of ways and a mutual one between the two parties. It was admittedly hard to see Terrance Arceneaux working his way into the starting 5, even before we found out that Pop Isaacs would be joining for next season. I mean, you have potentially Uzan, Sharp, and Tugler, of course, starting if they're all back. Isaacs, you'd presume, starting, and from there, 3 really highly rated freshmen. I think 2 with the inside track to start, because I think in all likelihood, Kingston Flemings is backing up whoever next year's point guard is and playing a lot, but Isaiah Harwell and Chris Sinek Jr., other guys who are going to be very much fighting for starting spots. So, long way of saying, it was hard to see a scenario where Terrance Arceneaux had a much bigger role in the coming season than he did in this one. He is good enough to start for a lot of college basketball programs, and I guess we probably have enough data now to say that U of H is not one of those programs. What do you think, Bobby, about all that?
Yeah, I think you said most of it there. I think if he wanted to play, he was going to have to go to another program. I don't think we're going to see him drop too far out of the, don't expect to see him playing at a low tier school. I think Terrance Arceneaux has done enough that maybe he's not going to be in the Power 4 anymore, but, you could definitely see him playing at a higher end, and I know there's no P4 in college basketball, but you could see him playing at a higher end, lower tier program here, something along the lines of, like, I could see him at like a St. Mary's or something like that. Not that exact, but like that kind of caliber, or like a lower G4 or P4 program, like a team in the lower half of the SEC or Big Ten or something like that.
He was a really tantalizing player because you saw flashes of why this guy was such a big time, top 50 in the country kind of recruit, was willing to do the defensive work and rebounding that Sampson generally asks of his players, was a capable enough 3-point shooter that you had to respect that, could score inside the arc as well. But also he kind of disappeared in a lot of games. He was scoreless in 4 of the final 5 games in the NCAA tournament, and there could be games where guys don't do much offensively, but you see him positively affect the game in ways that you can quantify, ways that you just kind of see outside the box score. And I don't think I'm being uncharitable to the guy and saying that wasn't really the case here. But back to that tantalizing description, he plays a not small part in U of H getting to the Final Four. He gave you really quality minutes against Tennessee when J1 Roberts was dealing with foul trouble, gave you 8 points in the first half, allowed you to really step on Tennessee's neck, metaphorically, in a way you didn't really, even in a run to the championship game, that it was a thing the team didn't do the best this year, and you didn't necessarily do as well in the tournament, granted, had this incredible run. And he had this stretch in early to mid-February. He started a couple games in there when Sharp was out injured, and just generally you saw Arceneaux play more minutes. I'm not going to say he didn't have a positive impact over that stretch. He was important in that really uncomfortable road win we've kind of all forgotten at Colorado, where the Cougars didn't pull away until the very end. He was very important in that one. But I was kind of looking for him to break out of that stretch, and he never really did. Right. And you go look at the season, there's a pretty stark divide between what he did in non-conference play and early conference play. I mean, he was arguably your best player in that blowout win over BYU in early January. He had 4 blocks and 3 steals and a lot of offensive output against Utah. But as the season kind of heated up in February and early March, it felt like Arceneaux's role decreased. you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll just say my core memory of him is always going to be from his freshman season when I went and watched the Cougars play at Oregon. He was incredible in that one. One of the best games of his career, was just a point off behind Marcus Sasser, leading the Cougars in scoring, led the team in offensive rebounds and 3 steals. And I left that arena that night thinking, this kid's going to be special. And I still think there's good basketball there. He's going to have some big names interested in his services. And wherever he goes, I just hope he chooses a situation where the head coach plans on building around Arceneaux, because I think he's a good enough player to be a key piece on a team that's playing the NCAA tournament. It just wasn't here.
Yep. That's it.
We'll stick with the hardwood and talk about women's basketball. Just got done talking about Cougar men's basketball. Cougar women's basketball here for a bit, because new head coach Matthew Mitchell has made a number of staff hires, putting together his first coaching staff in the last week or two. I'm actually going to start, Bobby, with the hire Mitchell made. It's the one non-on-court assistant coach hire, because I think it's a really interesting and critical one. He's bringing on a longtime Kentucky staffer of his, Amy Tilley, to join the program. She will have the title of chief of staff, which I think is kind of a subtle sign of U of H's increased commitment to this program, because, and maybe it's also, I'm overreading into it, and this is just Ron Huey structuring his staff a different way, but you didn't really have someone on Huey's staff with that kind of title or role in the program. Tilley, as I alluded to, was on Kentucky's women's basketball staff for a long time, was most recently their women's basketball director of operations. I believe she had an assistant AD title as well from 2014 to last year under Mitchell, but also under successors, Kyra Elzy and the current head coach there, Kenny Brooks. Previously, she held the titles of director of basketball relations and recruiting operations, and actually started her career working in college sports as an administrative assistant during, I believe, Mitchell's second year at Kentucky. I'm not saying here that U of H's success or failure hinges on Amy Tilley taking this job. Lots of players and coaches are going to more directly impact that. Just that it's a positive sign that somebody who was a key part of Mitchell's great run in Kentucky took a look at him taking the U of H job and was just like, I want to be part of this. Like, I think you're going to build something here.
Yeah, I think the thing that's most intriguing to me about her joining the staff, I thought it was interesting that she started as the admin assistant under Mitchell, and then was there for what appears to be 2 or 3 seasons, then leaves to go be the head coach at Dunbar High School, and then kind of comes back. I thought that was interesting, just because there's some coaching ability in here as well. Granted, it's at the high school level, not the P5 or the P4 college level, but I do think that's kind of interesting as well, that she has that ability. And just having somebody in charge of these kind of things. We saw Huey multiple times on his Twitter account asking for games with other coaches and asking for people to come help volunteer for like practices and that kind of stuff. And it's like, I think I texted you multiple times, or I think there was one time he was looking for somebody who could do video work for the team. And it's like, I don't need my coach dealing with that. Go recruit and go win basketball games. So I think you're right. It does show another level of assistance that this program is going to get.
I was saying, we were not making fun of Huey for doing it. It was more man, look at my head coach. Like, get this guy some administrative support, please. And yeah, I guess I'm glad that the new head coach is getting that. His first assistant hire, Mitchell's, was Demetria Buchanan, who will also have the title of associate head coach. Buchanan was a local product. She played at Jones High in Houston, played collegiately at Texas A&M, was a 2-time first-team All-Big 12 selection for the Aggies, played at A&M from 2006 to 2010, so roughly the age of the two of us. Most recently, spent the last 4 seasons at Auburn. During that time, she helped land a top 25 class, helped lead Auburn to the postseason twice, including to the 2024 NCAA tournament. Also has a good reputation as a recruiter from previous assistant stints at Kansas, Texas Tech, and SFA. Actually coaching the same guy at Kansas and SFA. KU's current head coach, Schneider. Also joining the staff are Anthony Anderson, who was at SMU the last 3 seasons, has coached at smaller in-state schools, UTEP, UTRGV, Sam Houston, and even coached and played small college ball. And Marcus Webb, who was at Kansas the last 2 seasons and played at Vandy the same time that Mitchell was coaching at Kentucky. So I'm not an expert on women's basketball assistant coaching hires, but I like that Mitchell, like, it's good that you have someone like Tilly, who we just got done talking about, who knows him well and knows operationally. It's somebody this head coach is familiar with, is a familiar face there. But I like that you didn't just hire nothing but people who worked with before. He hired young coaches who are familiar with Texas and the SEC kind of general blueprint, which I think is a good idea. Like, I think he would probably recruit more Texas than anywhere else, but this is a guy who's really good at finding good basketball players in the Southeast. I don't want him to stop doing that. I mean, not to make everything a men's basketball comparison, but like some really critical players to the rise of Cougar men's basketball, Rob Gray and Nate Hinton, were like guys that Samson, the Samsons plural, knew because of previous connections in North Carolina, connections in Texas junior colleges. Like, you want your head coach to use every existing connection he or she has. And so I think that'll be a good pipeline for the Cougars, like the staff. Like, I think don't know assistant coaches from that sport well enough to have been like, here's my short list. Like, we had a head coaching short list.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have had a short list. I do, I found it interesting with Demetria Buchanan where her connection with Coach Mitchell is. Maybe it's spending 4 seasons at Auburn. There's an SEC tie there. I'm not like complaining about it. I just thought that was kind of interesting, just kind of going through her history there. So, but yeah, I think what you're doing is, could work. Like you said, it's not like I have a short list of coaches. It seems like the experience is good here, and nice young coaches that are going to be fairly hungry to win basketball games. It's actually kind of crazy when you kind of want a young staff like this, because you kind of want them to leave, right? You want them to want to be there hours after hours after hours, grinding over tape so that they can end up with their own job. So I think you're going to get a hungry staff that's going to win there.
Yeah, I think it checks all boxes. You want a relatively youthful staff, check. You wanted Texas and Big 12 connections, check. I'm excited to see what they do.
Yep.
And I was like, the roster being mostly built from scratch, so won't be the last time we talk about this team and this roster here in the offseason.
Yep.
But we'll switch to the sports that are in season. We had to lead the non-basketball sports tonight with a program that had a big week in the previous one that Bobby got to see in person, are themselves on the cusp of playing in a Big 12 championship. So we're going to mosey on over to a little place we like to call Cougar Golf Corner.
Welcome to the corner. So we are going to start off with, actually, I know Sam kind of previewed it by saying that I was headed to Golf Corner to talk women's golf. We are going to talk a little bit of men's golf first. Last week they played in a tournament hosted by Arizona State. And like, this is going to sound really weird, they did all right in it. They finished about where you would expect them to. My results page got closed out, so give me 2 seconds, Sam, while I venture back to the correct page here. But they played in the tournament and got crap. Things are falling apart on me, Sam.
I haven't seen somebody have this much trouble on a golf thing since Bryson DeChambeau's Sunday round. Oh,
Sam did it.
That.
All right, sorry.
He landed a golf reference. All right,
let's go, baby. Yeah. Sorry. That is some bad professionalism by yours truly there. But they finished in 6th place at the Thunderbird Collegiate. They finished behind one team that was ranked higher than them in New Mexico, who is ranked number 49. U of H currently the number 41 team in the country, but did beat number 10 UCLA, and then also beat number 47 USC. So pretty exciting stuff there. I don't know if you're going to see a ton of movement from them off of that, but good showing there. Cougs hopefully are going to show up for the Big 12s when they start next week. And then heading over to the women's side, I actually was at the Veritex Bank Collegiate on the final day, which was Tuesday last week, the day after the national championship game. Everyone was heartbroken, including Coach Lasperia on that one. But I was treated to some very, very good golf. The Cougs actually win the tournament. They were the highest ranked team in the tournament, but we always celebrate wins. You beat Big 12 competition, Texas Tech. You beat UCF, Oklahoma State. Those were some of the bigger teams that you did defeat. You also beat SMU, who is ranked number 33. UCF is number 30. Oklahoma State is number 28. Cougs win by 2 strokes in this tournament. And then the singles champion, the individual champion, was Moa Savineskold. She actually comes in tied for first. I was texting you live update, Sam, as it was going on. She had a putt on 18 to win solo. And in fact, the coaches were recording it to kind of record the moment, and then it lips out. And the girl from Tulsa drops an absolute bomb to hit the birdie and tie Moa on the round. So ties for first, gets credit for the win there. But great showing from the Lady Cougars there. So super exciting anytime you win a tournament, even if you are the highest ranked team in it. And that leads us to what is currently happening as we speak. Actually, not as we speak, because it's too dark to continue play. But the Cougs are at Big 12 Championships, which are right outside Houston in Hockley, Texas. Actually at Houston Oaks Golf Club. So if you want to go out there, go check it out. I realized that is a golf course that I worked at when I worked for the First Tee. So sorry, fun fact there. So I'm very familiar with the course. I got to play it a couple of times. But the Cougs currently are in third place, 3 shots off the lead. Second rounds have been a little bit of a bugaboo for this team this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go into tomorrow. But they are in third place, 3 strokes off the lead. Currently leading is Iowa State and Arizona, tied at 1 over. The Cougs are 4 over. But you just look at this conference and just how stacked it is. Sam, I'm going to read you out some of the rankings of the teams here. You have the number 29 team, the number 19 team, the number 26 team, the number 30 team, the number 31 team, the number 15 team, the number 8 team, number 28, and number 22, and number 37. So your Cougs, higher than you might kind of expect, just kind of based off rankings. So it's going to be an interesting next 2 days. I'll be glued to Spike Mark and Scoreboard, just kind of checking in constantly about how the Cougs are doing. Also, fun little bit here, Maylin Kim leading the tournament on the individual side. So, not somebody who you kind of expected to be leading this team in the tournament. So you do have Moa Savineskold 3 back of her, looking at a top 10 right now. Natalie St. Germain is sitting at 2 over in 18th place. So those 3 have a real good shot at winning this tournament. Alexis Aldana is only 3 over in 27th place. Going to have to jump quite a few people to get there, but you're only 5 strokes out of the lead there, and you definitely have an opportunity if you can go low. If the Cougs continue like this, I would expect to see some hardware possibly coming home for the Cougs.
One little nugget while we're still on the subject of women's golf. Mention also, Moa, from her win at the Veritex event, joins a legend of the program, the OG Cougar women's golf great, Leonie Harm, as the only golfers in this program's history to win multiple individual event titles in a single season. And going back to earlier in her career, one of the things that really made her a memorable athlete to me, like keep an eye on her. Like, she's going to be someone good, is she, I think, tied for the win at the Jim West Collegiate, one of the annual events this program plays in San Marcos, her freshman season, which would be 2 years ago. So continuing like the greatness that she flashed there, very much seeing it here. And I think what excites me about the Big 12 championship is we've seen this team at its best. Like, obviously you have Moa is a very high level golfer. Like, she is because she's done multiple times this season, has shown herself capable of winning events, but it can also be a really balanced team. Like, if you have this team, if you have all 5 golfers somewhere between near the lead and like the low 20s, we could talk about a team winning the Big 12 championship. But as you said, also margins are very fine and second rounds have had problems. So tomorrow will be a big 18 holes for the ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just to kind of point out the greatness that is Moa Uzan, she's ranked number 66 in the country right now. That's pretty big. Like, it doesn't, you hear 66 and you're like, I mean, that's okay. No, there's 5 golfers per team that consistently play. And think of all the programs. Like, that's a lot of
low thousands.
Yeah,
minimum.
Yeah. And so she being number 66 is something to celebrate.
No doubt. And we're going to stick with the teams in the category of country club sports whose regular season just finished and take a little trip to Cougar Tennis Corner. Mentioned at the top of this episode, I believe I mentioned it in passing in at least a previous episode that I was going to be out in person at the Utah road trip portion of the Cougar Tennis Conference schedule as they took on Utah and Salt Lake City on Thursday and BYU in Provo on Saturday. For me, it was long overdue to finally watch this program in person. Like, you were leading me like 3-0, Bobby, on seeing Cougar Tennis in person. I had to at least narrow your lead for this season. And I've been grateful to watch the team via...
You traveled further for it, though. I will admit that.
Yeah, also, but we'll note that I live in Vegas and Salt Lake isn't like around the corner, but also I can literally get on the 15 and 5.5 hours later be in Salt Lake. So it's a very, don't want to get too like meta road trip stuff, but as you can imagine, you go through Zion, you go through lots of really scenic areas. It is a nice drive for a highway drive. Anyway, got to see Cougar Tennis in person. It was grateful I've been able to watch them via PlaySite streams, both of U of H home matches and road matches and other schools over the season, but nothing beats watching a team in person, regardless of sport. And I was grateful to do that 2 different times over the past week. I got there on Saturday a little early. I stayed in Provo, so I was like 6-7 minutes from the campus, from the tennis facility, and got to talk with head coach Kat Adamovich, got to meet the team prior to the BYU match. And when she came on with us before the season, you might remember, she talked about making Cougar fans who support the program really feel like family, kind of the same way they did at Oklahoma State, where she played collegiately. And I could say very much, like, I felt like family. One thing her and I talked about that I thought was interesting, I know she wouldn't mind me sharing, was how hugely important it was for the Cougar Tennis program to get a Houston area indoor facility that they could use for practices when the weather's bad or for matches when the possibility of rain is an issue, and ended up getting one at Sweetwater Country Club in Fort Bend. They ended up being that place. They had the West Virginia match there when the weather was looking kind of dicey for that one. Kat was telling me it was like a pretty limited window where they could reschedule that game, so they really wanted to get that one in. And they just had an exhibition play event there with members on Sunday. Again, you don't need to really imagine too hard why a Houston area sports team that normally plays outdoors might need some kind of indoor facility. The team wasn't able to practice that much this past January because of crazy weather, including that extreme cold and snow. We're, I think, also pretty hamstrung in the lead up to Big 12 play with practice time and the weather cooperating. So a really nice positive development for the program that I was glad to hear in talking to her. The matches themselves, to kind of actually talk about the Cougar sports, really went the opposite of the way you would expect based on their opponents' regular season resumes today. Utah was kind of around where U of H is in the standings. BYU was a ranked team, albeit on the lower end of the ITA rankings, but a ranked team nevertheless. Got to talk about the Utah match first, the less competitive, unfortunately, of the two. Utah has a nice, not super huge tennis facility, but I joked with Kat that if I ever win the lottery, that's what I'd want to build for U of H, because Utah's kind of landlocked, so they have it where like the 3 courts are on each side, but also like a decent sized spectator area in the middle. They have the PA and the area with like the free food and the swag there. Didn't go so hot for the Cougars in this one. I sat kind of in a spot near courts 1 and 2 for the doubles matches, and it really did seem like if I had one takeaway from the gameplay, Utah was getting a really high number of situations where the player playing up at the net was able to hit an unreturnable winner. Like just we'd pop it up and the player would either just backhand it, do that little backhand corner shot where it just goes, it clips the line and goes out. And you're just like, there's no physical way you can return that one. Gabby Cortez and Sophie Schouten were the most competitive. They mostly traded games with Utah's Camper and Roberts, but that match ultimately went unfinished. I'll give Valeria Croatina and Hayden Newton credit. They fought out of an early hole to cut Utah's lead to 5-4 late, but Utes were able to win the final game there, take the doubles point. For the singles matches, I kind of bounced around. I think the only one that I didn't watch a decent amount of was Hayden Newton on court 3. And Santa Strombaja had a really tough Utah trip. Didn't look entirely physically right out there. She struggled on court 1. And not specific to Santa, but it really did look like in the Utah match, the Cougars were struggling with the wind, the lack of humidity, and the elevation more than they did on Saturday. On Saturday, not to get ahead of myself, they looked like a team a little more, I think, like used to the surrounding, used to playing in an environment that is quite different than the, muggy, soupy Houston weather that we all listening to this podcast know very well. Watched Eva Seppa on court 2. Never really seemed to get momentum, had a lot of unforced errors. Valeria got off to a strong start in court 4, but lost the final 4 games of her first set and kind of got into a rut. Her second set was tied, though, when the match was called, so she was starting to play better. Gabby Cortez was the only Cougar to win her opening set. As always, Gabby really brought the energy intensity, was down 3-0 in her second set when the match overall was called. Credit to Sophie Schouten. She won her second set in singles, which is actually the last tennis I watched, because right as she finished her second set, they just called the match because Utah had won 4-0. And unfortunately, it was a 4-0 where I couldn't even make a strong case where U of H was really in it in the other three singles matches. Like, it might have been, but like, I think no one would disagree that it just wasn't a very good day for Cougar tennis. Thankfully, the Saturday match in Provo went a lot differently, despite BYU being a much better team than Utah. Doubles were, unfortunately, a pretty similar story to the Thursday match. Gabby and Sophie were competitive on court 2, and the Cougs weren't really that competitive in the other 2. And that sort of makes sense, really. Gabby and Sophie are the only current doubles pairing that even started the season playing together. You've had injuries forcing a lot of different lineup changes here. I mean, right now, U of H has the literal minimum number of healthy players you can have, 6. So you don't really have many options here. This one was played at BYU's outdoor facility, which is nice, and I think had more than adequate seating for a really good sized crowd. But if this makes sense, you could kind of tell that they normally don't have what you would call outdoor tennis weather during most of the season in Provo. You can kind of tell the indoor facility is the one they mostly play at, but obviously it was a pretty nice day. It was between like 75 and 80 most of the time I was out there, not that windy, so it was ideal outdoor tennis weather. I found a good spot in the court 2 seating area. They have kind of a main bleacher area near court 1, and then they had like seating area. They had seating areas in the back courts where 4, 5, and 6 were played, and then a bunch of chairs between 2 and 3, and I mostly set up there. I kind of did the opposite of my strategy for the Utah match. I was like, I'm going to lock in on one match and really feel like I watched as much of as I could. I didn't just bounce around and kind of learn a little bit, but not that much about any of it. So found a good spot at court 2, watched the doubles match. Then I watched Eva Seppa in singles play Grace Levelston, who I was going to say, one of the better opponents that Seppa has seen this season. Levelston was 12-5 coming into Saturday and has played all of her singles this spring on courts 1 and 2, which should tell you she had won over 2/3 of her matches playing against the best singles players that BYU is facing this season. Good opponent. And without a doubt, Eva played her best match this season, won in straight sets while being, and this is really important, I think the more calm and composed player made far fewer errors, really took control at the end of the first match. It was pretty close throughout. Like, she did a good job. Not like I think a lot of times her biggest problem has been getting into a hole early and kind of, like the negative feeds in the negative like any like any sport, but especially an individual and like tennis, like golf, like you start playing badly, the negative things feed on each other and it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And she started out really strong and kind of put pressure on her opponent and really had awesome. It was a vibes thing. So I remember, I will confess to something too here. I actually drank some, I promise this relates. Like for all the free food that I appreciate that Utah and BYU provided all the spectators of these two events, you know what they didn't provide a single thing of, Bobby?
What's that?
A drink. Like they're like literally, I'm not like literally bottled water. Like I'm not asking for you to provide me like name brand sodas or anything like that. Like don't give these people like salty pizza. I know you can bring in your, I know you can like bring in, but like, man, like I'll even pay for it. Like, hey, $5 a water bottle. Like I'm a captive-ish audience here. Like I'm probably not going to leave to go to a convenience store. I'd like to stay here and watch the match. Like, come on. Like, so they had like the two jugs out there, and it was in like a communal food area, and it wasn't clearly like, oh, these are like, it was like I saw fans with some of these food items. So I was like, oh, okay, like it's kind of a food and drink area. I go to the water jug. The water jug's kind of tapped out. I see a Gatorade one. I'm like, okay. I'm not a big Gatorade person, but like it's something to drink. So I pour it and take a sip, and I see this little label on it that says 4 players only.
Nice.
So
boy.
So like that was during my brief, and I remember like going from there and walking by, because it was right after Eva had won her first game in the second set, and I don't other than like saying good job and stuff and cheering on the players. Like I'm letting Kat and Georgia Pazan, her assistant, do their jobs. I'm not like, hey, I saw this. But I was like walking by Kat, who's coming from the backcourts. I was like, Eva looked good in that first game. And it was definitely indicative. She won that 6-1. I would say, without a doubt, her best tennis of the season. And Seppa hasn't had an easy season. It was really cool to see her. It was really cool, like we talked about previously, to see her finish off Cincy for the program's first ever Big 12 win to get the deciding point there. But I would say it was even cooler on Saturday to see her put it all together and defeat one of the better players in the Big 12. Like it's been a tough season, but you watch that and you see a player capable of being a very good one in this program. I'm being genuine when I say this, Bobby. I haven't enjoyed any in-person U of H sporting thing this season being the one person versus 30 to 35 rooting for Eva in Houston on that court. And like the two of us high-fiving each other and both like yelling, let's go at the same time after she won that. I'm getting goosebumps. That was so much fun, man.
Yeah.
Also, I only got to watch a snippet of it, but Valeria Krohotina actually got U of H's first point in this one. She dominated the first set on court 4. When I was actually briefly watching her right after I stole some Gatorade that was for the players, apparently. She was down, I think, 4-1 at the time. Had previously been down, I think, 4-0. Won every single remaining game in that set. Got the Cougars on the board. Eva allowed the Cougars to tie it up 2-2. BYU did win on court 5 against Sophie Schouten to take a 3-2 lead. And then you had 2 different matches. Court 3 with Hedda Newton and court 6 with Gabby Cortez go to deciding third sets. It was a really gutsy effort by Hedda Newton. And she lost the first set like 6. I want to say, I didn't write it in here, but I think it was like 6-3. Something not super decisive, but not super close. And when I looked over, I think it was at the end of Eva's match, and I was going towards, to get some water and see how the backcourts were doing. She was down 4-2 in her second set. So like 2 games away from losing, and U of H just losing the 4th point and being, done, but fought to get that third set, 1-7-5. And I think just kind of ran out of gas in the third set against a really strong opponent in Kendall Kovic from BYU. But I think gutsy showing overall as a team, an incredibly gutsy effort against a good opponent at the end of a tough season. You never saw this team stop fighting, because it would be pretty easy after having the season that you had to kind of, go quickly and just, get out of town and what have you. And I saw the opposite of that. I saw a team that never stopped fighting for one moment. And I am, if possible, more convinced that it's a when, not if, when it comes to this program.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to go out there and experience watching this tennis team. It's a lot of fun. There's a different vibe when you're in there. When you're there watching it live, it's really a lot of fun. So I'm glad you got to experience that. But it feels a lot like how I felt with Coach Fritsch last year. Yes, the record was better. right? I know Coach Fritz, the record wasn't better necessarily, but like I said, it may not be a better record, but it's going to look better, and it feels like this tennis team looks better. Granted, they do have the better record as well. This just looks like a foundation has actually been kind of poured here.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for you personally, Bobby, but I know in another sport you found it very rewarding to get into supporting Cougar women's golf.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to see that program compete in person recently. You got to see the facilities also with Coach Laspria. Doing what we've done here with Cougar Tennis, just talking about the team more in the show, my creating Third Ward Racket Club in the offseason, just trying to do little bits here and there to make people more aware of Cougar Tennis has been unbelievably rewarding. And I would encourage Cougar fans not just support the tennis program, though I would definitely say if you want to support an incredibly talented coach who's trying to build something here from scratch, do support the Cougar Tennis program. Your dollar goes incredibly far there. But I think I would just encourage Cougar fans generally to support a program outside of football and men's basketball. We love football and men's basketball. We talk about football and men's basketball a lot because we are very into those sports. But support a program outside that because all of those athletes are working unbelievably hard, and your support, both in your like in-person attendance and your financial support, goes so much further.
Yep.
Like it does so much more. Like if you think to yourself, well, like Bobby and I are doing pretty well. Bobby and I don't have like 7 digits worth of money, not to put your business out there, but Bobby and I don't got it like that.
Trust me, you don't got to put it out there. It's well known.
You know
Nobody,
what I mean? Like
nobody who's hearing this is surprised.
Like we're doing well. We're doing well for ourselves, but we're not huge dollar booster people. But I would also say I don't think I'm overstating it to like say like you and I's respective support of this program's women's golf in your case, tennis for me, it's incredibly appreciated.
Yep.
Again, not trying to overstate it, but like
just showing up is amazing.
Like every single player, and not just like a obligatory like they all lined up and said thank you for coming. So like no, just as I encountered them, I was like talking with Valeria after she went on court 4 and was kind of just talking with her about that specific matchup. And she closed by saying, like, really, thank you for coming out and seeing us.
Yep.
Like, Eva thanked me. We were talking after she went on court, too. Like those athletes work incredibly hard. Those athletes work as hard as the athletes in the bigger name sports. So,
absolutely.
I will get off my soapbox. And also, just mention some general Utah trip stuff. Gorgeous state if you haven't been. Just like the northern part, the southern part.
I've only heard amazing things.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Also, Provo, pretty good destination for a road trip. Like if you want to see a Cougar football or men's basketball game in the future there, would very much encourage it. Went to the Creamery on 9th. Would say it was very good. Would say Mormons, if nothing else, know how to make tasty sweet treats.
There you go.
We'll mention really quickly also the Cougars will be back in action tomorrow at the Big 12 Tennis Championship in Waco. They will be facing TCU as the opening opponent. And I will try to post on all the various podcasts and social media adjacent outlets about how the Cougars are doing in the tennis tournament.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it.
What I'm not looking forward to as much, the sport I'm going to talk about here, we're going to stick with the spring sports, and we wish we had more positive news as we check in on the Cougar baseball program. And if we hadn't been otherwise occupied with a little thing called the Final Four the previous weekend, before this last one, or in our most recent previous episode, we would have noted that Cougar baseball got a 2 of 3 series win with some good pitching at Baylor, same weekend as the Final Four. We're never mad here about getting a head-to-head win against Baylor. Unfortunately, since then, the Cougars have gone 1-4 with the only win coming over a pretty terrible Rice team. And the 4 losses came to quality opponents. McNeese, a top 25 team, which very close one. You lost 4-3 to them in 10 innings at home last Wednesday, but also getting swept against West Virginia in the weekend series with only one of those 3 games, a 9-8 loss from last Saturday, being that competitive. And West Virginia is a really good team. They're 30-4 as of recording, top of the Big 12 standings, top 25 in the polls and RPI. But not to put too fine a point on it, Bobby, this also used to be the kind of program that could occasionally pick off high-level teams at home. I mean, you remember, like this team gave ECU, the last conference we were in's big bad baseball program, more problems than I think we expected. And it just didn't happen against West Virginia. The pitching was poor throughout. the hitting only showed up sometimes, and that has kind of been the story of the season. You're 1-8 in home Big 12 games, and I will acknowledge that TCU and West Virginia are two tough opponents to get at home, but you also got swept against the worst Texas Tech team in ages. So I don't have a picture of the series. If you got them, by all means, share them. But
I don't either. It was really hard to even come close to figuring it out. But
Antoine Jean, you know what? Safe assumption, it's Antoine Jean. Antoine Jean probably did something that helped us. I think he actually pitched relief late in the game that was close and did well. So we'll just assume we'll just give it to Antoine Jean for the rest of the season.
Just what I want to say is like, I'm not okay getting swept, right? Like, you never want to get swept. At least win one of the two. But to not even be competitive really in two of the games. And when I say not competitive, I mean you were down 5-1 on Friday after 4. On Saturday, to be honest, you were up 3-0 after 1, but then you gave up all 9 across the second, third, fourth, and fifth innings. And from there you were down 9-7 after 5. You didn't feel like maybe we can do something here. And then just Sunday it was Sunday. I mean, you pitched, hold on, how many guys did you throw? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You throw 7 guys. One of the guys goes 4 innings. What does that tell you about the rest of everyone else? Like, it just has not. Again, I'd be okay if we are competitive. It has very much those Dana Holgerson vibes where it's like, dude.
Do you know what's the most? Oh, sorry.
Just be competitive in games. Like, I'm okay. I'm not okay losing, but like at least make it entertaining where we're excited late in the game or something. Jeez, man.
Before I rudely attempt to cut you off there, I know the answer to this is no, but also you're going to hear it. Do you want to hear the most damning thing about this season's resume?
What's that?
So U of H has won 19 games total this season. Probably going to be 20 after tonight by the time you're listening, because you're playing Rice, and Rice isn't any good. But you won 19 games as of you and I sitting here recording. How many Quadrant 1 RPI wins do you think U of H has out of those 19? Winner wins, I guess.
I'd probably venture to say 4.
1. It was the TCU series when you took 1 of 3, the opener of that series. Like, that's it. You're outside the top 100 in RPI. Wouldn't say it's a guarantee U of H finishes last in the Big 12, but right now you're just 1 ahead of UCF and Utah in last place in the standings, and 4 of your 5 remaining series are against current top 50 teams. Gosh. 3 of those 4 are away from Houston, although the Cougars have looked decent at times away from Schrader Park in conference play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the top 12 out of 14 teams in the standings make the Big 12 baseball tournament. I don't think it's a guarantee U of H doesn't make that top 12, but I also don't know how you could have a lot of confidence that U of H won't be missing the event for the second season in a row. Yeah. And that's a black eye, man. Like, if you could point to a lot of things like, okay, why isn't U of H an Omaha team? There's dollars and cents reasons for that. Like, I don't think you and I are here just like feeling as though our birthrights are seeing this team in the College World Series every season.
Right.
I just, like I said last episode, or the last time we talked about baseball in this podcast, it's been almost a decade. We're going on a decade of this team not really being that close to being a tournament team.
Yep. It's not great.
This weekend, the Cougs will go back on the road, face off against a team having its own disappointing season, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. OSU is the preseason pick to win the league, but are currently 5-8 in Big 12 play, have a losing overall record as well. We'll say the Cowboys have played a disproportionately high number of their Big 12 games away from home, and they swept a good K-State team in their one home Big 12 series that wasn't affected by the weather. They played 1 against West Virginia, and that one got mostly canceled. But this is an OSU team that had lofty preseason expectations and have not met them so far. And usually when you look at teams like this, I feel like it's usually the team's pitching collapsed. And OSU's pitching is actually not that bad. They have a mid-4s team ERA, under 4 walks per 9 innings. Like, those are all more than respectable numbers for a college pitching staff. They just haven't hit that well as a team. They hit for power quite well. They draw a decent amount of walks, but just do not hit for average.
Mm-hmm.
And also on the road, dropped 2 of 3 to a Utah team that's been about as good as U of H has, which is to say, not very. So, I mean, not impossible the Cougars get something this weekend in Stillwater. You are 4-2 in your 2 road series to date, but the problem is this OSU team, even in a disappointing season, is still probably a good bit better than the Baylor and UCF teams that you have those series wins against.
Yeah, it's gonna take a big effort from the Cougs, and it feels like it could be one of those like crazy get right series for your opponent here.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great for the. I mean, you'd really start if the Cougars can do something surprising. You start putting some breathing room between you and the part of standings you don't want to be in come Big 12 tournament time, and give yourself some confidence, because it's not an easy stretch of opponents to end the season. But I don't think that's the most likely outcome here, unfortunately.
Me neither, bud. Me neither.
All right, end us on a happier note and take us home, pal.
All right, well, that is it for this week's podcast, and we appreciate you guys listening so much. Listening to an hour's worth of Cougar coverage means you are an absolute rock star, and you love the Cougs as much as we do, so we appreciate you. If you want to reach out with any feedback, you can find us on social media at SH Podcast on Twitter, or you can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. If you have gotten rid of all your social media, hats off to you. You can also email us shpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you want to visit our network partners, go check out the 1012 Network. And also go visit our longtime friend Charlie Hustle and use promo code Network12 for a discount on all your off-season Cougar needs. Also, if you want to throw a little bit of money behind the work Sam and I do, we couldn't tell you how much we appreciate it more than we do. As little as $5 a month gets you all of our premium content. If you want to give more, we won't stop you from doing that either. Sam, I think I covered everything. What do we always say, bud?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs. Let's go.